Chapter 111 Bamboo Hat. Arliang stopped drinking, and he retied the small silver gourd to his waist. However, his legs remained crossed, and the bamboo saber that the mountain lord from Go Table Mountain had carved for him rested flat across his knees. Arliang lightly drummed the hilt and tip of the saber scabbard with his hands, causing it to seesaw up and down. Truth be told, I've actually been testing you this entire time. You've already completed many tests. Your choices will determine how far I escort you, and to put it simply, I'll accompany you for a distance proportional to how many obstacles you can overcome. Chen Ping'an nodded and replied. After pondering for a while, I also started to develop some suspicions. However, I feel like there are all kinds of thoughts and ideas swimming around in your mind, so I've been unable to make heads or tails of it this entire time. Arliang wasn't surprised by this, and he openly revealed, the first test was by the dragon Whisker Creek. If you proved yourself to be a naive child who was ignorant of worldly affairs and a foolishly kind person who would act only on impulse, then perhaps I would have only left the donkey to you. Afterward, I would have patted my hands and left. As for whether you could last until Wei Jin from Wind Snow Temple exited seclusion, why would I have cared? After all, you would have died sooner or later. Caring about you would have been wasting my emotions. Arliang continued to recall the details and recount the tests that he had given Chen Ping'an, leaving the young boy completely dumbstruck. He had never imagined that Arliang was such a careful and scrupulous person. Even more than this, he had never imagined that he had encountered so many strange and mysterious tests in his life. The third last test was during the battle on Go Table Mountain. If it weren't for my purposeful provocation, the mountain lord Wei Bo and the two pythons wouldn't have acted in such a reckless manner. My hope was. The second last test was when I tempted you to return to the bamboo forest to chop some more bamboo. And if everything goes according to plan, the current test will also be the final test. I initially wanted to accompany you and the others to Yefu Pass before leaving. However, some unexpected things have come up, so I have no option to leave beforehand. There was a carefree smile on Arliang's face as he continued. Some tests were done on purpose, some were done tentatively, and some were done with the flow of the situation. I took exception to some of your choices, and I felt like they were as stubborn and pedantic to outworn rules as could be. However, some of your choices also left me feeling extremely delighted and content. This is the correct way to go about things. This is unlike the imperial examination system for scholars such as Qi Jingchen and Qi Chan, where they focus on truth and ability first and foremost. My decision to test and observe you from the background is similar to how experienced immortals from some sects pick their disciples. The focus is on your character rather than your talent. A smile of self-ridicule appeared on Arliang's face, and he asked, "Do you feel like I'm playing around out of boredom because I have too much time on my hands? Or perhaps I have a devilish mind filled with evil schemes?" Before Chen Ping'an could even reply, he had already offered an answer for himself, saying, "How could I have so much spare time? Someone as mighty as me is extremely busy, okay." Chen Ping'an dragged his feet onto the bench and lazily crossed his legs. He held his face in his hands and asked, "Arliang, is it because I'm acquainted with Mr. Qi? Is this why you're putting so much effort into me?" Arliang's expression became solemn, and he replied, "Far too many distractions and temptations lie on the path of cultivation. Li Hui's severed water cliff and Lin Xiaoyi's cultivation talent can all be sold and transformed into stepping stones for you. However, Qi Jingchen's disciples shouldn't suffer such a tragic fate. This is especially the case for Li Baoping. She's such a great child, so just thinking about her being deeply saddened and disappointed by her junior uncle causes my heart to shatter." Arliang was barely able to remain serious for a minute, and he quickly reverted back to his old self again, saying with a smile, Old men like us are able to endure our home nations falling and mountains and rivers sinking. However, we're always unable to contain ourselves when it comes to trivial things of happiness like these." Chen Ping'an grabbed a tanghulu that hadn't been sat on by Arliang and slowly chewed at it, asking in a muffled voice, "Arliang, what do you think about me right now? If you feel like I'm not suitable, can you ask a friend to accompany Baoping and the others to Great Sui Nation? I'm not afraid of facing hardship, truly. I'm only afraid of disappointing Mr. Qi and failing to protect Bao Ping and the others. Don't try to escape, brat. You're genuinely the most suitable person for this task. Qi Jingchen might not be good at other things, but his ability to choose people is truly top-notch. Of course, this is unless that old man personally came to accompany them. Anyway, let's not mention that old geezer. Bloody coward who shrinks into his shell like a turtle. Stingy and miserly old scholar. Just the mention of him makes me angry. Arliang fixed his bamboo hat and looked up into the distance. He clicked his tongue in wonder and mused, "Oh, the emperor of the Great Li Empire is quite an interesting person too. Impressive, quite impressive. Since I still have some time left, let me chat with you about some of the more useless things. I'll also take this opportunity to explain why I'm willing to put so much time and effort into you." Arliang also crossed his legs like Chen Ping'an. He placed his saber across his knees and explained slowly, regardless of whether one is a martial artist or qi refiner, the biggest taboo in cultivation is to be sloppy and indecisive. Thus, following one's heart when dealing with others is a common shortcut. However, difficulties still arise due to the convictions in their minds. Military and cultivators will never consider retreat. Martial artists are most likely unable to escape this restriction as well. In their minds, advancing against the flow is a form of bravery and progress. This is a fight for ascension and a fight to reach the heavens. Taoists like to examine their own conscience, Buddhists like to observe their past life and future life, and Confucians like to abide by rules and customs. Mohists are slightly stranger, in that they hold universal concern for the welfare of the world. They have a strong sense of chivalry, and they're not especially fond of talking about longevity. They're like fictionists who have great ambition but little talent. They want to create an idyllic world like that on their pages. This is one of the 100 schools of thought, and disciples from this school of thought record the conversations and folklore from the common world. The human mind is fragile and brittle like glass. It can't withstand much scrutiny. Qi Jingchen was a stubborn and conceited scholar who wasn't willing to probe. So, let me do the probing for him. How can one be careless when it comes to matters regarding the inheritance of a lineage? If you're nothing more than an embroidered pillow or someone who can't resist temptations, then what will happen in the future? Qi Jingchen might be dead, but I'm still alive. An embroidered pillow refers to someone who's attractive on the outside, but lacking substance on the inside. He'll be unseeing and unfeeling at that time, but I'll be disgusted to death. You have to understand that being able to endure hardships and being able to resist temptations are two completely different matters. Arliang sighed and remarked, "This is most likely a case of the eunuchs being more worried than their emperor, huh?" This refers to observers being more worried than the person involved. "Arliang, you don't need to worry," Chen Ping'an replied earnestly. "Even though I like money, I only like money that I've earned with my own hands. If it's someone else's money, I won't take it even if it's been dropped on the floor. Instead, I'll try to look for its owner." Arliang smiled and commented, "Your words aren't wrong. However, you can use the money first if the situation truly calls for it. You can remember this debt and repay it in the future, adding some interest to it as well. This way, both parties will be happy. This is what a genuinely good person would do. Otherwise, will you truly guard that money and end up starving yourself to death?" "Then how will I know whether a situation truly calls for it?" Chen Ping'an asked. Arliang pointed at his heart before shifting his finger and pointing at his head. "You can use the sum of money if you can pass these two tests." Chen Ping'an's eyes lit up in understanding. He nodded earnestly and said, "Arliang, even though you're not well-read, you're indeed someone who's traveled around and experienced quite a bit. Your words have helped me understand a lot." Arliang rubbed his nose and said, "Why do your words of praise seem inferior to even Li Hui's?" He leaned against the railing and gazed at the bright moon hanging above the corridor, saying with emotion, "Do you know? In the eyes of Qi Jingchen and the other scholars, your stubbornness to abide by outworn rules is actually regarded as upstanding, genuinely upstanding, where your actions agree with your mind. This is the quality of being upright like a virtuous person and standing on the side of righteousness when dealing with matters." Arliang laughed heartily and pointed at the slightly baffled young boy, continuing, "Haha, You should already know about these things. Hillbilly, money grubber, little miser. However, it's exactly because of this that you're very similar to when that old geezer was young. In reality, Qi Jingchen had a terrible temper when he was the same age as you. Instead, it's the old geezer who everyone regards as an old bloomer who was the same as you. He was extremely contemplative from a young age, and his temper was also very good. He was just like a bodhisattva that had been made from clay. He was destined to sit on the altar alongside the other deities. Arliang's voice became softer and softer as he spoke, but he suddenly raised his voice and said, "Of course, I've become accustomed to acting as I please, so I'm not a very big fan of your way of going about things. It was because of this kind of feeling that I rejected a young boy's request at that time. He was around the same age as you. I often wonder to myself if things would have turned out better than now if I had taken him with me to explore the world. In the end, I told him this, believe me, you'll enjoy more success as a scholar than a swordsman. The world is so small, so just having me, Arliang, is enough. However, knowledge is infinite like a boundless ocean, right? So there's no need for you to eat dust behind me." Qi Jingchen grinned and continued, "I've come to the Great Li Empire because I want to chatter with some people. I want to tell them that someone cares about the matters that Qi Jingchen perhaps didn't." Arliang mysteriously extended his hand and casually flicked a finger. In the bookstore located in the small alley next to River Viewing Street, the handsome young man who referred to himself as Li Jin from the rushing tranquil river suffered a hammer blow to the forehead. He was sent flying back. Not only did he crash into the bookshelf, but he even crashed through the wall into the neighboring shop, terrifying the shop clerk who was nodding off behind the counter. "This is a fight between immortals, so just stand aside and watch," Arliang murmured. "You're nothing but a measly koi, so do you really think you've witnessed all of the grand rivers and crashing waves in the world? I, Arliang, have seen more large rivers than Li Hua has eaten grains of rice. Do you think I'm exaggerating? I've never exaggerated in my life." Arliang then made a grabbing motion at the void. Next to the courtyard wall in the distance, a small green darkness fish struggled in vain like a fish that had taken the bait. With a quick tug, the green darkness fish landed in his palm. More surprisingly, the fish that should have been on the verge of death after having its link with its owner severed was even more lively and energetic than before. It appeared leisurely as it swished its tail and swam around Arliang's palm. Arliang turned to Chen Ping'an and explained, "I'll let Li Hua raise it in his severed water cliff when we return." Why does it seem like that little bastard always enjoys dumb luck from out of nowhere? Did Li Hua always step on dog shit in the small town and not clean his shoes? Dumb luck is literally written as dog shit luck in Chinese. A childish voice rang out in the distance, shouting, "Arliang, you're the one who steps on dog shit every day." Chen Ping'an turned to Arliang, and the man chuckled softly and said, "There's no need to worry. The three of them only returned a short while ago, so they're not aware of what happened with Zhu He and Zhu Lu. Regarding their sudden departure, you can just find some random excuse to explain it." After saying this, he waved his hand and hollered, "Stop eavesdropping by the wall. Come on over. It's time to share some spoils." Li Baoping, Li Hua, and Lin Xiaoyi arrived in the corridor one after another. Li Baoping sat on Chen Ping'an's right, while Li Hua sat on his left. However, Li Hua suffered the exact same fate as Arliang. He cursed in anger as he stood up to pluck the tanghulu from his rear. However, his frown quickly turned into a delighted grin, and he threw the tanghulu into his mouth without a second word. Meanwhile, Lin Xiaoyi quietly sat down beside Arliang. Arliang handed a stack of yellow paper talismans to Lin Xiaoyi and said, "Make sure to carefully study them and don't let them go to waste." Qi Jingchen once said that there's a profound mystery in the small towns Fortune Street and Peach Leaf Alley. Even today, there's still a significant fated opportunity hiding in those streets. Arliang patted the aloof young boy's shoulder and continued, "No matter what, you're the first genuine cultivator among the four of you. As such, you need to cherish your future even more." Lin Xiaoyi nodded and solemnly accepted the stack of yellow paper talismans, placing it under his clothes next to the recite atop Cloud's scripture. Arliang turned to the furtive Li Hua and snapped, "Where's your crappy book? Take it out." "Why do you want it?" Li Hua retorted. "You need to give me 10 taels of silver first." Arliang snapped his fingers, causing the hidden green darkness fish to materialize before the four children. Apart from Chen Ping'an, the remaining three children all widened their eyes in surprise. "Now take your crappy book out and flip to a random page," Arliang said with a disdainful expression. "I just need to place this fish inside. In terms of how to raise it, you can figure that out yourself. I'm not going to serve you anymore." Li Huai jumped up and retrieved the severed water cliff. After opening it, he dashed forward and forcefully closed the book over the green darkness fish. A soft whine vaguely traveled out from the pages. Arliang rubbed his forehead and asked, "Who wants the remaining donkey?" Li Huai immediately put up his hand and exclaimed, Me. Can I sell it? Or can I kill it and make donkey stew when I get hungry?" Arliang didn't want to speak. Li Hui's voice suddenly became soft, and he asked timidly, "Arliang, you're not about to die, are you? You're not speaking your last words, right?" Arliang rolled his eyes and spat, Piss off with your family as far away as you can." Li Huai sighed and returned to his seat next to Chen Ping'an. "My parents and sister are already far away enough." In the end, there was a tinge of sadness in his voice as he begged, "So Arliang, don't leave us, okay? I won't curse you in the future anymore." Arliang wanted to say something, but he ultimately decided against it. He untied his small silver gourd and tossed it to Li Baoping, telling him, "Catch. This small gourd is one of the best sword-nurturing gourds in the world. Ordinary sword-nurturing gourds are nowhere near its level." He then stood up and stretched lazily. "I feel so much lighter now." He glanced down at his green bamboo saber before looking up and asking with a smile, "Little Baoping, can I borrow your saber auspicious talisman for a bit?" Li Huai immediately shot up in excitement. "Arliang, are you going to fight someone? I'll help you." Arliang looked at him with suspicion and questioning in his eyes. The little boy laughed dryly and added, "I'll help wave flags and cheer for you." Li Baoping's little legs pumped like a flywheel as she quickly ran over and handed the saber to Arliang with both hands. Arliang wore the saber named Auspicious Talisman by his waist. At some unknown time, Chen Ping'an, Li Baoping, Li Huai, and Lin Shaoyi ended up standing in a straight line before the man wearing the bamboo hat. Arliang twiddled the brim of his bamboo hat with 2 fingers and laughed loudly. "You guys never believed me before when I told you how strong I am or how incredible my swordsmanship is. In fact, you even like to scold me for bragging. You kids, you're still too young and naive. I was afraid of frightening you guys, so I even went as far as to purposely pick some trivial matters to brag about. For example, drawing and resheathing my blade so quickly that no splashing water can enter the scabbard." There was a wide smile on Arliang's face, and he asked, "You guys don't believe me, right?" He looked toward some dark corner first, ordering, "Shield them." Some person nodded. The man who had worn a bamboo hat the entire time, ever since he had met them, finally took it off for the first time. He casually tossed it into the air. However, before the bamboo hat could even hit the floor, it had already transformed into a puff of fine powder that flew away with the wind. At the same time, with the saber-wielding man as the epicenter, the ground within a radius of 500 kilometers shook violently as if a colossal bull were stirring under the earth. Arliang instinctively reached up to fix his bamboo hat. Upon realizing that it was already gone, he scratched his head and cleared his throat, chuckling, "My name is Arliang, Liang as in kindness."